What are the most important factors in good cooking? Salt, fat, acid, heat, right? If there's one thing missing from that list, it's water. The thing that determines if food is juicy or dry, the thing that evaporates from deep fried batters to leave behind a crunchy exterior. Water and salt might be tied for first in terms of world's most important ingredient in the kitchen, so learning how to monitor and adjust moisture levels while cooking is foundational, non-negotiable stuff. I've got some broad, basic lessons and specific examples. Lesson number 1, the amount of water in a dish is usually adjustable. A blueberry is juicy and sweet. A dried blueberry, one that's had all of its water removed, has more intense flavor and more raisiny sweetness. Whether it's a berry, a sauce, or a glaze, when you remove the water from something by cooking it down or drying it in the sun, you concentrate its flavor, its sugars, and any salt that might be inside. Is your sauce reducing too much? It might get too salty. Add plain water to adjust the moisture level back to spec. Lesson number 2, dry stuff is easier to burn than wet stuff. Garlic is notorious for burning easily if you cook it for too long. So why is frying garlic step 1 in this tomato sauce recipe? Won't it burn? I fry the garlic in oil now so that it turns roasty and sweet and complex, but after those wet, juicy tomatoes go in, the pan is full, primarily, of water. No matter how high you crank the heat, liquid water won't get any hotter than 212F or 100C. That heat ceiling means any garlic pieces that are suspended in sauce, i.e. not directly touching the hot metal pan, cannot burn until a significant amount of moisture evaporates off. Lesson number 3, dry stuff is easier to toast, brown, darken, and or crisp than wet stuff. There's not a whole lot to get into for this one aside from the obvious. Do you want crispy skin on your meats? Make them dry, not wet. You want a mahogany sear on veggies in a pan? Don't crowd the pan and then let the food boil in its own juices as they leach out. This one's pretty basic, so I'd rather move on to lesson number 4. Water is more dense than air. Which one would cool you off faster? Walking into a walk-in freezer or jumping into a cold plunge? Western audiences tend to turn their noses up at poached meats since they don't come out with dark, burnished skins, but placing something like chicken pieces or whole shrimp in a gently simmering pot of dense water is far more efficient than placing it in an oven full of hot air. Poaching food in hot water will give you gentler, more even results than roasting it in hot air. By the way, you can apply that to wet air versus dry air. Have you ever seen someone cook a burger, put cheese on top, and then squirt some water in a pan before covering it? That's because the water will steam up, smothering the cheese in dense, wet, hot air that melts it way more quickly than hot, dry air ever could. Really, the more you learned about water in school, the more technique you can apply to cooking. If you remember the osmosis lesson in science class, you know why brining a turkey the day before Thanksgiving makes it taste more moist when you cook it, or how we understand that water expands when it freezes. That's why sometimes people freeze a block of tofu and then thaw it, maybe once, twice, or even 3 times. The water in the tofu expands and then hardens into ice, making these big, irregular holes in the tofu that change the texture significantly. If you've ever tried preventing your fresh herbs from rotting in the fridge by chucking them in the freezer only to pull out dark green limp slime on stems, the same type of action is taking place. The water expanded inside the cell walls, shredding up the plant matter and leaving you with a sad, floppy mess. There's this meme in the cooklet community that goes, wet the dries, dry the wets, wet the dries, dry the wets. But the good cook sees this not as a comical bug, but rather a valuable feature. In the face of the culinary absurdity that is dry the wets and wet the dries, be the one to say, yes, chef. Trade has paid to be mentioned at the end of this video. Fall is a time of transitions, like that from cold brew and iced mochas to hot drip and cappuccinos. I live in the Phoenix metro area, so I flip-flop back and forth based on whether we're having an 80-degree October day or a 95-degree October day. Trade coffee is priced like grocery store grounds, but they team up with America's top local roasters and offer their goods directly to you in a freshly roasted, freshly ground, or whole bean format. You take a quiz, which only takes like 60 seconds, and they tell you which coffee they think you would like. If, for some reason, they are wrong and you don't like it, they will replace that bag for free until you do. Right now, Trade is offering 50% off a 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/Shaquille. That's drinktrade.com/Shaquille to get 50% off 1 month. I put a link down in the description if you don't want to type it out, but if you just love typing, that URL is drinktrade.com/Shaquille.